Hello again, and welcome back to Adventures in Book Hunting. This is episode 7, and this video is about 6 of the most valuable finds I've had as a book hunter over the last year from a purely monetary standpoint. Um, uh, some of these books I think were exciting to me just because of what they were as books. In fact, number one. Um, is a book that I obtained, not caring one bit about what the value was. It was a book I intended to keep forever, and just happened to find out that it was considerably more valuable than I thought it was. Before we get going any farther, I want to show my Hatter's Bookshop T-shirt, special T-shirt with cover art and graphics created by Dark Vista Arts, also of Princeton, West Virginia. Uh, you can get this very shirt at the Hatter's Bookshop. And any of you who might already have the shirt may realize I am wearing this shirt backwards because I wanted to show off this awesome art. In any event, just here a sec. All right. But first off, I want to explain a few criteria for how I ranked my top 6 books. Um, these are, when I evaluate these books, if I have an actual value for a sale, I will give that value. Otherwise, I'm going to give a reasonable potential value based upon what I believe the fair market value would be. Um, I will also, to the best of my ability, tell you a little bit about how I found the particular book, and then finally, what it cost me to obtain the book. So without any further ado, let's start with number 6. Number 6 was, once again, because I have nil video editing or shooting skills, I need to show an image of these books. This is a leather-bound set, hope we can see it here, of A Song of Ice and Fire by George R.R. Martin. This isn't the actual set I found, but it's pretty much identical to it. And I found this set last fall, of all places, in a little free library. Certainly one of the most exciting finds I ever had. Um, but it was one of those things where you almost had heart palpitations finding it out in the wild, particularly under those circumstances. Um, it was one of those things where I knew immediately I was going to go to the Hatters and show this one off. And they were a little bit surprised that I was just donating it to the store. But my thought was, I knew it had to have some value, but but I have some of the paperbacks. I've read the first book of Song of Ice and Fire. It wasn't something that I just needed to have, and I thought it would be better suited rather than me hoarding it to go out into the world and find an owner who's really going to treasure it. My understanding is that set sold for around $60. And once again, as you've probably already guessed, I got it in a little free library. It was absolutely free to me. That was number 6. Number 5 is a book I've actually found in the wild twice. Now, this is a work of history by a local resident about the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency. Uh, Many of you outside of this region may have never heard of the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency, but you probably have heard of organizations like the Pinkertons. And this is the same thing, just on a smaller regional basis. Um, the Pinkertons did not have a good reputation in most places. In fact, I committed a very serious social faux pas by describing the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency as a group of murderous thugs, hired guns for the coal industry. I unfortunately made that remark at a dinner in Carroll County, Virginia, possibly the only place on earth where the Baldwin Felts Detective Agency is viewed as heroic. And even I have actually found this book twice, both times at library sales, 2 different libraries locally. I donated one to the Hatter Bookshop over a year ago, and insisted then that the owner take it, and said, just take a look at what you can find the value online. You want this book. This is a lesson, I think, also in in the potential of value in a book you may not necessarily know much about, or only has local interest. But my recollection is the other copy of this book that I found and donated sold for $80. And as I indicated, I've obtained this book twice, both times for the princely sum of $1. And I've been holding on to this one, but I've read it. It's a very interesting work. I'd certainly been willing to give it up again. But once again, this came in at number 5 with a value of roughly $80. Number 4 is actually a set of books, and I found them very recently. This is a series, at least the first part of a very much larger series, Earth of the New Sun by Gene Wolfe. I already had a 2-volume trade paperback set that contains these 4 novels. Very popular as literary science fiction. It's set in a dying Earth setting, far future of Earth, where the planet Earth is truly dying, uh, where you have things that look like magic, but they are actually science. It's just as Arthur Clarke once said, science so sophisticated that it appears to be magical. And I'll show you each of these. And the main character of these novels is a professional executioner from the Executioners Guild. And it's told from his point of view, and he is a notoriously unreliable narrator. But in any event, these books are highly thought of. Very good reads too. These are really good books. If I didn't already have them, I probably would have kept them. This set, these 4 books that I'm showing you, as a set, have a value of up to $125. You can collect the set individually, buying it book by book, and probably actually save some money. But the only place I could find these 4 books as a set, these particular editions, the asking price was $125. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean it's worth that much, but it's probably pretty close. Um, and as far as what it cost me, less than 50 cents. This came from a charity thrift shop. I was really pleased to find them. And I knew they'd have some value, but I was a little bit surprised that it was that much. Yes, in any event, this set collectively comes in at number 4. Number 3 is a book that I figured would just be of local interest um, for the region I'm in, and it's a book by J. Knox McConnell, the boxer and the banker. And for most people, I would imagine you'd have no idea who J. Knox McConnell was. He passed away, oh, golly, over 25 years ago. But in some circles, he's quite notorious. In fact, there is Knox McConnell on the back with the professional boxer Billy Cohn, or Con. Um, they apparently were good friends, and this is J. Knox McConnell, who was a banker, writing about a biography of his friend who was a light heavyweight boxing champion of the world. Both were from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, knew each other as young men, and formed a lifelong friendship. Now, as I said, this book is autographed by both men, by the author and by the subject, by J. Knox McConnell as author and Billy Kahn as the subject. Of course, dated, you know, April 25th, 1984, 40 years ago. And as I said, J. Knox McConnell passed away over 25 years ago. But to local folks, he is most notorious for being the president of the National Bank of Keystone, which was the subject of a horrendously tragic bank failure in 1999. The FDIC estimated that the bank lost between $650 and $750 million of deposits. Basically, the bank was running something of a Ponzi scheme. They were offering exorbitant interest rates to lure in depositors, but to continue to pay those kind of rates, they had to continuously get more depositors. They invested in some very shaky loans and financial instruments. And James Knox McConnell died, and the people who were in charge after him just couldn't keep up the scam. Um, that was the thought that J. Knox McConnell was bright enough to keep the whole thing going and to juggle those balls, and that the people who were left behind to try and manage it just couldn't handle it, and eventually the whole thing collapsed under its own weight. A lot of people lost a lot of money locally through this collapse, but this one is at number three because as I if I haven't already said, um, I did a little research, and this book, signed by, in fact, in identical condition, signed by author and subject, um, probably would go for about $200. Now that's potential value, obviously, but once again, this is also a lesson in in finding value in what you might think are obscure, strange places, because of the subject matter, the the um, the autographs, uh, the provenance and history that goes behind the author. It does have some value. And I probably pass up books all the time, similarly situated, that have immense value, but I just don't know enough to know. And I picked this up because I knew of J. Knox McConnell. Didn't meet him, but I came close once. And I worked in McDowell County, where Keystone Bank was situated when this happened, and got to kind of observe the events that I'm talking about firsthand. But in any event, an interesting find, value of around $200. I paid 25 cents for it out of a library sale section. Number two on my list is not this book, but it's a different edition of this book. This is Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón, a Spanish author. It's a novel set in Barcelona after the Second World War, and it's a book about a book. Let's show you the inside cover. In any event, I had read a chapter of it and had put it down because life, as it will, got hectic. And like I say, I ignored this book for a while. And in the meantime, I found another couple of copies, and one of which I kept, which was a hardbound first edition of this same book. And I was suggesting it to a friend as a good subject for a buddy read. And when we were looking at that book, we noticed that it had an autograph. And with a little research, we determined it was indeed the autograph of the author. And so the thought was, well, we'll do a little more research, see if it might have a little bit of value. And it turned out that it did. And in fact, for this one, I have an actual value because that hardback version of that same book, autographed, uh, was donated to the Hatter Bookshop, and they recently sold it for $200. Like I said, that was quite a shocker for a book that I'd been hauling around for several weeks. Uh, just thought it would make a good buddy read. But in any event, anytime you find a book with an autograph, whatever it is, do a little research because even if the book in and of itself is only worth $3 or $4, an autograph is going to enhance that value somewhat. In this case, it was a tremendous amount. Huge difference in the value of the book between a regular first edition in good condition and one that was signed by the author. Now, that was number two. And before I move on to my most valuable uh, book hunting exploit ever, I want to throw in an honorable mention. Um, and it's an honorable mention. It's not in the. It would, as far as value, it would have gone into the list because it was more than a couple of the books I mentioned, but it wasn't the book itself that had value. And that is a basic, thin line, New International Version of the Holy Bible. This isn't the exact same book because I wound up giving that one away. But it's the same style. The only difference in the book I'm going to be talking about in this book is the color. Um, it was the same style, thin line, same font, like a gift style Bible. And, it's flat line, so it very comfortably, will lay open flat. Anyway, and they're nice looking Bibles, and they feel nice to the touch. Okay. I saw two of these. Like say the only difference being color, and the color of the ones I found were kind of an aqua blue. And I was thinking of a person who had completely worn out their New International Version of the Bible. Like me, if they're studying, they carry at least two translations, King James and in my case, New International. Um, and so I thought, well, this person would like to have it. And it was in a little free library, so why not? So I did what I always do. Replace the book I'm taking with some other good books. I try not to put junk in little free libraries. There's enough junk there already. In any event, I took it home, laid it on my dining room table, and then a couple days later, actually pulled it out of the sleeve and started looking at it. And inside was an envelope. This was a couple weeks before Christmas last year. There was an envelope in it that said, "Know you are loved." And I opened up that envelope, and there was a $100 bill in it, brand new $100 bill. So normal retail for this book is, yes, 19.99. Value to me, value of the book plus $100 in cash. Like I say, I add that in. You're not. That's something that is like a lightning strike. I'm probably never going to find something like that again. And like I say, the value that I obtained from it wasn't based on the book. Like I say, the book you can go into a regular commercial bookstore, $20 plus tax every day of the week. Um, and that in and of itself is a nice thing to find in a little free library if you need a Bible, because it is a nice little basic Bible. But the value for me was, of course, finding a surprise gift of charity, a pay it forward kind of thing, $100 in cash, and it was just a very nice thing to happen around the holidays. And that, of course, was the honorable mention. And anyone who's followed this channel, for the few weeks that it's been around, will probably have already guessed that the number one book I have found out in the wild as far as value is If I Ran the Zoo by Dr. Seuss. Um, uh, I got it because it's one of the six, I guess the proper term would be unpublished or unlisted books from the Seuss catalog. This and five other books were discontinued from publication due to the Seuss Foundation's thought that they contained imagery that was problematic. If you want to learn more about that, I have a dedicated video for this book all by itself, and I'll try and remember to put a link in the description below. But it's easy enough to find. If you found this video, you can find that video. Of course, fair market value could be up to $350. If it had the dust jacket that came with it, that shoots up to 1,000. If you're lucky enough to have this book with a dust jacket, um, in the same sort of shape, with the signature of Dr. Seuss, you're talking at least a $2,000 book. But in this condition, this particular early edition, $350. Um, and this is I think the only book I ever tried to talk the seller out of selling, because it was just too interesting to me to let them sell it to me for $1. It was at a library sale. Oh, actually, a library's regular sale shelf. It was on there, and of course, I knew I wanted to have it. It's one of those six books that's no longer published, um, and I have kind of a sweet tooth for that kind of literature, so I knew I was going to get it. But anyway, this is the number one so far in my book hunting exploits. $350. I, of course, do not collect books for financial incentives. To the extent that I keep books, I'm not looking for value. I'm looking for personal interest. And and to the extent that I am looking for value, I'm looking for the Hatter Bookshop. Because because it's run by some very good people. It's a really nice element in our local community. Every community needs a good independent bookstore. Um, it just helps so much with the culture and quality of life for a community. And I'm very happy to help those folks in any way I can. And of course, as you know by now, that's one of my big motivations for book hunting. A few years back, it was because I was hoarding books. Less so now. Uh, uh, I believe the next video I'm gonna do is about my books I've collected over this last weekend. Uh, and oh, it's got probably close to 20 books. Out of those, I'm probably only gonna keep two. And most of the rest are going to be donated either to the store or to other individuals who I think would be interested in them. But in any event, I hope that gave you some insight into what kind of things you can get out in the wild. For almost for free or almost free, you can get a lot of great value if that's what you're into. Um, you can make money at this. It's hit and miss. It's truly a treasure hunt, but it is out there. And on that note, I will leave it. Six books I have found in the wild. And if you liked any of these or are surprised by any of the evaluations that I've talked about, please feel free to leave a comment. But until next time, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.